Good afternoon from Cornell University in Ithaca, upstate New York, where we had a major storm, but now it's calm and beautiful weather. On behalf of the Cañizares Center for Emerging Markets and eCornell, welcome to a very special keynote where we will honor Dr. Mark Mobius' life, opening markets, minds, and opportunities. His legacy in global investment. He was a pioneer and also a friend of Cornell. My name is Lourdes Casanova, and I am the Gail and Rob Cañizares Director of the Cañizares Center for Emerging Markets. Thank you for being with us today. And as we celebrate the life and the legacy of Dr. Mark Mobius, a pioneer of emerging markets investing, a global thinker, a mentor to many, and a cherished friend of the Cañizares Center. Mark was often described as the Indiana Jones of emerging markets, but for us at Cornell, he was much more than that. He was a generous advisor, a supporter of student entrepreneurship, a co-author, a speaker, and an inspiration behind the Cornell EMC² Mark Mobius Pitch Competition. Through this competition, his name will continue to be associated with the next generation of founders working to solve real problems in emerging markets. Dr. Mark Mobius became one of the most influential figures in global investing at Franklin Templeton, and we have here with us Gustavo Stenzel, who is director and executive vice president of Templeton Investment in Brazil. We have also here with us John Ninia, who worked with him the last years and co-founder of Mobius Investment. So he helped in Franklin Templeton build emerging markets investing into a recognized global asset class. He believed in visiting countries firsthand, meeting entrepreneurs, understanding local realities, and seeking opportunity where others saw only risk. He traveled extensively across emerging and frontier markets and became known not only for investment acumen, but also for his curiosity, optimism, discipline, and human touch. He helped make emerging markets visible to global investors. And equally important, he respected the entrepreneurs, managers, and communities behind those markets. At Cornell, his legacy lives and will live through the Mark Mobius Pitch Competition, which encourages students and recent graduates to create ventures that addresses challenges in emerging markets. We are going to start now with Dean Andrew Caroli. From your perspective as a dean, as a scholar, and an author of the Cracking the Emerging Markets Enigma, that is a practical strategy for evaluating opportunities and, most importantly, risks as well in investing in emerging markets. Why does Mark Mobius' life and work matter so much for a business school like Cornell SC Johnson College of Business?
Thank you, Lourdes. It's wonderful to be here today. As a scholar who has been studying emerging markets from an investment standpoint for decades, we always looked up to Mark Mobius, the investor, for inspiration. And it's just such an honor to be on this wonderful panel with John and Gustavo and yourself. And I'm so glad so many people are listening in to our conversation today about Mark Mobius. And specifically, I should mention, as I understand it, his family, Pamela, Matt, Janet, nephew Hans, they're all listening in. So regards to all of you, and thanks everybody for joining in. You know, Mark's career embodied what I think business education seeks to achieve aspirationally. His career and life was represented by, as you mentioned so beautifully, Lourdes, in the opening, global curiosity. He was a naturally curious person, and you could see that influenced his work greatly. He believed, I know from the many conferences that he participated, he believed deeply in analytical rigor. And then ultimately, I think what distinguished him from so many others was that at the core, at his very core, there was a humility to the actual vocation. He believed very much in human-centeredness, as you said, and that I think embodies what higher education is. When we think about trying to understand and build the future business leaders, these are the qualities that we want to inspire in our students. He didn't study emerging markets from a distance, from a desk in front of a computer, or just that. It was often when he spoke about his strategies, he talked about the experiences he had going to the countries, meeting with the people, as you said. He was asking questions of the taxi driver coming in from the airport, learning about as you said so well, local realities. I think that is so deeply aligned with Cornell's mission. We want to be, and going back to the very founding of this university, and of course as a college of business, we aspire to live up to the expectations of our founders at the university, which is, the ultimate pursuit of excellence in scholarship, learning, and teaching, but also to be very aware of the practical realities of what it means to be a difference maker in society. That is the Cornell S.E. Johnson mission statement. And as you said, Mark's legacy reminds students that markets aren't just these abstract concepts in spreadsheets. They're really about people. People interacting with markets, people interacting with institutions, entrepreneurs, their families, the communities in which they live. It was an understanding, that balanced understanding of both data and that empathy, that cultural sensitivity of what it means. I think that's the signature of Mark Mobius, the investor, at least as I understand it.
Thank you, Andrew. So how do you think that Mark Mobius Pitch Competition reflect Cornell's commitment and the College of Business commitment to emerging markets and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I really appreciate, this is a great question, Lourdes, as well, and thank you for it. Again, going back to its founding, we've always believed in the important balance of excellence in academic pursuits, but also the importance of balancing that with just rolling up your sleeves and the practicality of learning. And it's been our signature. Today, these days in higher education and business, we talk about the importance of experiential learning. And in many ways, the Cornell S.C. Johnson College of Business and the three schools that make it up, it's about the pioneering of experiential learning in business. And that's exactly what we brought to the table with regards to the Cornell Center, the Cañizares Center for Emerging Markets. It was really about inspiring young people who are future leaders to try to understand those emerging markets, but understand them in the right way. Building solutions, but understanding the importance of the local realities. And definitely entrepreneurship and innovation was very much a part of the conversations that we would have had with Mark Mobius. I guess the other thing I should say is that, the whole concept of the founding of this Center for the Study of Emerging Markets going back 15 plus years now, Lourdes, is that we wanted Cornell to be the leading global voice on emerging markets towards helping students to train them so that they can proceed wherever they want to proceed in the world today with all the uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, and of course the opportunity that is out there.
And then what do you think students can learn from Mark Mobius' example?
Well, I think another great question. If I were to distill it down to a few things, I would say there's probably three things in there. First of all, like Mark's example to all of us, we want our students to experience intellectual curiosity, a courage to pursue questions and seek the answers to them. I think that Mark was always going that extra step to look at places and study them and understand them where others may have overlooked or ignored them. And we want our students to do that. So intellectual curiosity and courage. Another quality I think we love to instill in our students is what I guess we would call disciplined optimism. Yes, optimism, because the story of emerging markets is about the up and the up. It is about the opportunities that are there, but never losing sight that there has to be a grounding of that optimism in research. Mark and our students should never hesitate to understand deeply the risks that undergird the emerging markets, to balance it against the opportunities. So disciplined optimism, I would say, is number two. And I guess the third one, and I repeat what I said from the very beginning, I think there was always this core sense of humility. We often talk about it as Cornellian style humility. And it's generally built off of people-centeredness. Like Mark, I believe our students come to learn how important it is towards understanding a market, that it is critical to talk to the people who are on the ground, how they live their lives, how they manage the businesses that they run, the languages they speak, the social organizations that they engage in. All of those things matter. Cornellians understand this. Mark Mobius certainly understood it. And you know, those three things together, they're an incredibly powerful model, Lourdes. Incredibly powerful. And I really think that these next generations of business leaders that we are training here will be those globally fluent, analytically disciplined, and generally humble and curious people who will go out and learn from the world. So thank you for letting me share that connection between what I think the inspiration of Mark Mobius is with what we believe we are doing here at Cornell and the S.C. Johnson College of Business.
Thank you very much, Andrew. We are now turning to Gustavo. You are in Rio. That was a city that was beloved by Mark. He would never miss the carnival. So definitely a beautiful city, one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and that Mark would travel on a regular basis. So Gustavo, you are Managing Director, Executive Vice President of Templeton Investments. You worked directly with Mark. And so first question, how should we understand his contribution to emerging market investing?
Thank you, Lourdes. I need to start by thanking you for the invitation, and it was very nice of Cornell to open this space to honor Mark. I think for myself and for all the Mark's alumni, we call ourselves those that were hired and mentored by him. It was a privilege to have him in our lives, and with big gratitude, we're gonna remember him. Of course, Mark was known, he became famous for defining emerging markets by creating the asset class. This is due to his drive of always trying to find new investments, new markets, new funds that could close the gap to what we could offer and what the clients would need. Just as a background, when Sir John Templeton invited him to run the first Templeton Emerging Markets Fund in 1987, that was $100 million, and back then he said it was too much money because only a few markets were open. There's about 6 markets open that we could really invest. And as the markets were opening, meaning no capital controls and less limitations to foreign investments, the global emerging markets products grew. But Mark took advantage of that to creating also regional products inside the emerging markets. So promoting also regional funds, local funds, country funds. We even set up a very important private equity business within his umbrella in emerging markets. And he went down the liquidity curve where nobody else would go. So always a pioneer, let's say, from the beginning. But the interesting thing is that crisis never stopped him. He started coming to Brazil, as you mentioned, in the 80s. From the mid 80s to mid 90s, we changed currency 6 times, every time cutting 3 zeros. So imagine to find investments in that kind of environment. I mean, you probably hold on to pennies in the dollar if you all this time. And as an example, he hired me in 1998, beginning of 98, right after tequila crisis in Mexico, Asian crisis, and that year was Russia crisis, and right after Brazil crisis. And he really never stopped. He ended up opening 18 offices across the globe and growing the business to $50 billion. And what I think I can add to the discussion here is that one skill that is absolutely overlooked by the market, which is how he set up the group and how he managed and motivated the team, which was spread across the globe in 18 offices. If I can continue on this idea, is that he thought it was very important to have people on the ground to know what was going on. So the bottom-up research was based on us on the ground, and a few things that stood out. First was, given his curiosity, as mentioned before, he kept us engaged at all times. He was famous for always answering emails. Every idea you give him, he would process and become a project for research. And in the end, we travel a lot with him. He spent every year a month in Latin America. And, we go to the hotel rooms at night and clog the fax machine in the beginning where internet was weak. We would bring printers to the room. And time passed very fast for us because we felt belonging. So that kind of engagement made us feel like we were part of success story of Mark Mobius. And the second thing is what also was mentioned before. It was the learning environment. Our business is very competitive, and he never allowed the blame culture. So every time we discussed the case, it was to learn. We had calls every week. We met the whole emerging markets group once or twice a year somewhere in the world, and that to study the cases. What happened? What was the successes and failures, and how can we improve on that? So that kind of made people very comfortable, and I believe that accelerated the careers of the newcomers because they could take responsibility pretty early in their careers in relation to other companies. And the third is very interesting that he wanted us to focus on the job. So he wanted the organization to be flat under him. So it was kind of everybody, every analyst and him on the top. Of course, the senior people would mentor the newcomers, but we felt like a boutique within a big organization like Franklin Templeton. So that was a very interesting way of running the team. And finally, as I mentioned before, his trust and optimism were key because once you do your research and you have a senior person like him to check and reassure you, it's a very motivating for us. I remember we had a small IPO, very tiny company in 2005, but I was very hot on the IPO because I really saw the track record of management and I believed in them. And Mark said, no, let's go. We anchored the IPO and we had this company until today. And we had a few 1,000% on that stock. That's kind of a mandate to people that want to be contrarian, and to be contrarian, knowing the risks as well. So as my colleague here put very nicely, a market grounded us, making challenges feel manageable and success feel shared among everybody. And that's that's my notes, Lourdes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gustavo. So what made Mark's investment style different?
Well, for one thing, he made sure we were very close to the companies we invest in. We never invested in a company without meeting them. Hopefully, would be visiting the sites as well. And Mark was very interesting. When people knew Mark was in the room, top management would come for the meeting. And then sometimes he said, "No, don't tell I'm coming." So we could meet, middle level management. So we have different views of the company. I think that was unique of Mark. He wanted to talk about, the factory workers, middle management, top management, and people was background of the founders of the management was very important for him. He was always looking for value in companies that can survive cycles, companies that are differentiated by either cost or uniqueness of the product. And those companies are not always cheap. So the idea was to monitor the whole universe of high quality names, and when the opportunity comes, when they are mispriced, in our view, we'd go for them.
And then,
Yeah.
and then what was Mark's particular relevance for Latin America? So he had a very weak spot for the region. So why that? Why was that?
Well, Mark saw that Latin America was the last one to come out of hyperinflation of the 80s. And it was, a rich region of the world with top commodities. We're top producers of many of the commodities. So very endowed the region with young population, and given the hyperinflation, very underleveraged as well. So I think it was a combination of positive top-down views that Mark had, and visiting the companies, he realized really top management and very entrepreneurial, I think, a group of people here running the business. And for us, the important thing, and we learned this from Mark, is the word reform. So once the governments, the leadership would be coming with reforms, that would immediately unlock a lot of value for investors. I think that's in a nutshell what has been happening over decades in Latin America, and he was a real pioneer coming here.
Yeah. And what do you think that young investors, MBAs that graduate and join investment banking, and entrepreneurs can learn from Mark today?
Well, definitely Mark had this long-term view. I think if you're a short-term investor, it's very harsh to survive physically. And he looked at the investments in the long term, and never the optimism needs to be tempered with the analytics. And he was very determined. So don't quit. Keep on trying to find opportunities. I think those are very important lessons from Mark for all of us that spent so many years with him, so many decades actually.
Yeah. So I am turning now to you, John. You were co-founder of Mobius Investments. You graduated from Cornell, from Dyson, from the business school. And you were a rolling scholar, a very bright student. And then very young, recent undergraduate again from the undergraduate program. And you joined Mark. So for the last 8 years, you worked very closely with him. So what do you think, or what would you like most want people to remember about him also as a person? Because you traveled with him, you were in Dubai, you were in Hong Kong, every phone call was from a different city in the world, Thailand, of course, India, that very long trip in India. He wanted to know India, that is now kind of the emerging markets of choice. So you spend there a lot of time, but also Jamaica, and as I said, Rio in Brazil. So what do you think that we should remember him also as a person?
Yes, well, I think when many people think about Mark, we all sort of have our own thoughts or a picture of him. And many people might picture him at 9 in the morning in the gym on his bicycle. And then after weightlifting, because he was extremely disciplined and energetic every day, he would get 2 workouts in. Some people might think of him confident and speaking to a large audience. And some people might also picture him in the office going through papers. So we all sort of have different perspectives of Mark, but the one that I think is most important is the genuine curiosity that Mark had. And this is not only in the markets that he invested in, the companies that he invested in, but also the people that he connected with. I was fortunate to work with Mark at his previous firm, where he developed a whole new framework of ESG investments, where he also brought in the culture of the company. And the importance of the culture is something that many investors overlook. It's something that can't really be captured in a model or in a spreadsheet. I feel like we keep coming back to this general theme of, Mark really pushed to knowing the people and the culture and the communities that he invested in, not just the financials, because these things can't be captured in spreadsheets, how happy people are within the company and just the general dynamic that exists. So I think something that was very unique about him was he was able to speak with the CEOs who were running the company and the workers on the factory floor with the same genuine curiosity about not only their job and their responsibilities, but also their interests and their hobbies and how they feel things are going within their community. And I think that that's something that's extremely unique and something that I hope that I can carry on in my own career going forward.
How was to build Mobius Investments with him from scratch?
Yes, well, I remember when Mark wanted to leave from his prior firm, he was thinking about, the whole way that mutual funds are structured. It's very restrictive, and you can't really have as much freedom in your investment making decisions. And Mark was starting to see emerging markets in a more broad light. He was looking at emerging opportunities. And the fact that even at 88 years old, he was redefining emerging markets investing and looking at things in a new way is just amazing. But this whole new definition of emerging opportunities is just because a company is not domiciled in an emerging market. It could be domiciled in the US, but their manufacturing and their revenue growth can be based in emerging markets. And to have this perspective and new idea and push the boundaries and redefine what emerging markets were, a market which he helped create and define to begin with, and then he's redefining it even 50 years down the line, is really amazing. So I think that again is something that many of us lose as we grow older and stay within our career for long periods of time. We start to lose the ability to think outside the box and challenge our own ideas. And that's something that Mark really was so good at, and something that I really admired about him.
I wanted now to talk about the process of writing his last book, and we worked as co-authors, Sharbari Pandit, you and I, since January. Well, we started earlier because in his travels, he started saying, you know, everybody's paying with a QR code in, of course, China, but also India and many other places. Brazil, the success of PIX. So something was happening over there. So the book that we published in December, The Digital Currency Revolution, CBDCs, Crypto, and the Future of Global Finances. I remember our discussions, our weekly discussions that we started more or less in January. And we decided on a particular day of the week, particular time, and we had a group of students who were helping us tremendously. Avi Das, Gabriel Carvalho, Abubakar Idri, definitely were there in all the discussions, in every week that we were advancing. And every week he was there. And for me, amazing, such an important global investor was there in absolutely wherever hotel room he was in, he would join the discussion, and he would also give advice. And he would also give advice not only about the book, but about the history of finances, the history of currencies, how mobile payments are moving on, how important is trust for any central bank digital currency to work. So how do you see, where our tribals, again, it was Jamaica, Brazil, China, or India. So then how do you feel the process of writing the book, which was, for me, definitely amazing, that he never missed a phone call and he never missed a deadline. So for that week, we'll have that. And we all worked very hard, including the team of students, to make sure that we were meeting the deadline. So how do you see this process, and what did we all learn while writing the book?
Yes, well, it was really an honor to be able to work with Dr. Mobius and you on this book. And the digital currency revolution is interesting in its own right, because I actually first met Mark during my freshman year at the Emerging Markets Institute, where I interviewed him on mobile payment technology and the rise of mobile payment technology in China. So it was sort of a full circle moment to now look at a broader development of mobile payment technology on a global scale. And Mark really believed in learning about emerging markets, not just in the textbooks or news headlines, which were typically filled with crisis and fear headlines. He believed in actually getting on the ground and learning what was really going on without any politics or bias being able to influence through just what you read online. So we had the opportunity to travel to Jamaica, where we met with the central bank and learned about their digital currency, the Jamdex. We had the opportunity to go to Brazil and learn more about PIX. I remember I was with Gustavo, and we were in Rio together, and we came into a few instances where PIX came in handy. So being able to actually see it and see the transactions between people is something that you can't only learn about in textbooks. I mean, sure, the textbooks help, but going out and seeing it is a whole nother level, and it really sticks with you much more when you get to interact with people who are impacted by these digital currencies and the opening of digital banking solutions to the broader audience. And I think that's something that Mark would like people to know as well, is that the best form of learning is boots on the ground. And again, Gustavo mentioned they did not ever invest in a company where they did not first meet with the management. So that was always crucial for Mark. He had to meet with the management team. He had to actually visit the company. That way he could get a real sense of what was going on. And I think that for investors as a whole, the digital currency revolution shows that emerging markets are not these poor, underdeveloped countries that have, that are all using cash and bartering and things of that nature. I mean, these countries have payment systems that are more advanced than that of the US. And it's pretty amazing to see. And I hope that the book sheds some light on that.
Yeah. We have a question from the audience. So to honor Mark Mobius, it would be interesting to know if there are any similar investors to him and boots on the ground and a pioneer. So how do you see that? Or he was one of a kind? Gustavo, maybe you can answer this question.
I think he was one of a kind because he was traveling by himself across the globe 365 days of the year, and that, as our CEO puts, he was irreplaceable. That's why we had to make some changes for succession here, because it was hard to keep the same structure as Mark set it up.
Yeah. So going back to the pitch competition, and that question is for Andrew. So how can we first carry, again, I remember that we would organize coaching sessions with Mark in the summer. And the startups could not believe that Mark would carry the whole coaching sessions. And sometimes there was a problem scheduling the call because they never believed that he would be there to coach them. And that was amazing. And of course, for those who had the coaching from them, startups from IIT Kanpur in India or Bangladesh or Ghana, definitely very tremendous opportunity. And also when we started the pitch competition, I think right now there are many more VCs in many emerging markets that are available, but at that time there were none or very few. So definitely he made a difference by opening the pitch competition to so many developing and emerging markets. So how can we carry Mark Mobius' legacy forward through the pitch competition and through EMC²? Andrew?
Yeah, great question, Lourdes. I think we will come to learn over time just how important the concept of the pitch competition is, particularly with this focus on emerging markets that was so unique setting for us. It was natural that it should be us. And in fact, I think Mark Mobius probably recognized that, which is why he wanted to support it and invest so much of himself into it, which is what you're talking about. The thing about these kind of experiential learning types of opportunities is students at Cornell, and like at many other places as well, what a pitch competition does is bring out the competitive juices, and students really respond to that in real time. It gives energy, and it forces them to have to integrate all sorts of things that they may have learned, textbooks, co-curricular. It brings a lot of their learnings together at the same time. But it's that competition that fuels the energy. Yeah, I think Mark, when he set this up with you, Lourdes, several years back, understood the importance of that. But here's the secret behind these pitch competitions, and you know this very well. It's as much about the competition and the pitches as it is about the mentorship that comes along and the bridging of generations of those who have gone forward and experienced things and seen things that the younger aspiring leaders have not. And it comes in the form of judging. We could call it judging, but really at its core is a mentorship exercise. Those gems of wisdom that come from a critical review of the pitch is really an imparting of wisdom, of experience, of something that the person who's been around the block a few times has seen that will help those young people along. So yes, it was all about the competition, but it was really about the learning exercise, the journey that was traveled along. And I think Mark understood this. I think it will, for many of these young people, they will remember those gems of wisdom probably 5, 10, 15 years into their career. some kind of gem of wisdom that was imparted. And so, yeah, I appreciate the question, and I'm so grateful that we created this opportunity in collaboration with Mark Mobius.
In fact, Mark and also John, you were instrumental in having this agreement, and without you would not have been possible because you facilitated the contact and the trust. You need to build trust, and through you build trust. So very, very grateful. So one of his aspirations was, and John also, and we have worked on that, was that the pitch competition would become more Cornellian. And actually this year, this year we had 105 startups that applied, so a record high. And the five finalists are from Ghana, from Colombia, from India, and from Cornell. Actually, we have two from Cornell this year, and two runner-ups, one from Ivory Coast in Africa, and the other one again in healthcare, India, and other emerging markets. So he was not someone who would fund one idea or one experience and leave it. No. So let's do this and let's do that. And one thing, and I'm very, very proud to share with you all, with the audience, that this year the 5 finalists and 2 runner-ups are part of the Johnson Summer Startup Accelerator. The idea was, we are working with Greg and Adam, very grateful to the professors of entrepreneurship who have integrated very willingly these 7 startups within their program. So again, he never stopped and he always wanted, and again, John, very, very grateful for that. So we are finding ways to make it more benefit these startups from the very rich Cornell entrepreneurial and venture capital ecosystem. We are working with Big Red Ventures, and again, a very rich entrepreneurship ecosystem here at Cornell, and now we have made this change. So staying with you now, how should the students, do you think, again, we talked about, John mentioned the ESG framework that Mark developed before. So how do you think students should balance impact and financial sustainability? Andrew?
Was that to me?
Yes.
Well, I think that you know, the question begets a trade-off, and you know, and I think myself, and certainly in many of the board work that I'm involved with, we want to make it an understanding that these things can work together. The sustainable investments, and I know Mark believed deeply in the importance of long-run risks and opportunities through integration of sustainability into the finance function, the investing function. And I think that, like I said, in many people's minds, there is this natural trade-off that may not necessarily exist. The opportunities may be defined by the risks, and the risks defined by the opportunities themselves. I think what's beautiful about what we see nowadays is ever increasingly more and more, and lots in the form of small and medium enterprises around the world are coming up with innovative ways to demonstrate how they can represent to investors, value-oriented investors, as well as values-oriented investors, equally about the opportunities that are there. And I think that we're seeing large-scale institutional investors. Gustavo represents one, but there are many others that are looking to integrate more naturally, more organically, the sustainability function. I think Mark Mobius would be cheering these efforts on, understanding him as I do. This was important to him, and I appreciate the question, Lourdes.
Thank you. So now from Ryan, from the audience, a question for you, John and Gustavo, and I will answer also after you. So what was your fondest memory of Mark, and what impact did it leave with you, and what can we learn from it? So how to use it in our own investment approach or in our lives. Maybe John?
Sure. I'd say my fondest memory with Mark would be when we were back home together on Long Island, because Mark was also born and raised on Long Island, about 30 minutes from where I was born and raised. And it was always quite surreal to be driving around my hometown with Mark in the car beside me. I mean, after I've been with him all around the world, more or less, to Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Thailand, Brazil, Mexico. I mean, we were all over, and then all roads led back to home somehow, which was just really, really touching to me. And we shared a lot of the same memories growing up. He was always very fond of Jones Beach, where I've spent many of my summers as well here on Long Island. And it was just interesting to see that these things sort of transcend generations and are always there forever. And even someone who doesn't really have a home in a way. I mean, Mark was always on the road, always traveling, finding new opportunities, but it always led back to being back at home with him here on Long Island. So I found that very touching. And I guess it shows you that the world is smaller than you think. There's opportunities out there, but it's also so easy to connect with people from anywhere in the globe, especially nowadays with technology and the opening of markets in the way that Mark has for the greater public. I mean, it's so easy to reach out and connect with people no matter where they are and find new opportunities. And I think that's something that we should all hold with us.
Thank you. And Gustavo?
Well, I think for me the respect he had for any kind of people, any level of hierarchy, is something that's really touching, because for the people that were under him, that inspired a lot of loyalty. For the companies we visited, they opened up to him. And for the people that we asked questions, they were always touched that he was interested in them. So respect, I think, it's something very special that Mark would leave as a leader. I think the fondest memory itself, I think it's one carnival he spent here. Oh, actually not carnival, New Year's. We went to 3 museums during a weekend. So he showed that he took life to the maximum. He never had an idle time. He was always looking to fill his time with interesting cultural agenda.
Sorry, John. Okay, I will also share two memories. One was about, so he created a WhatsApp group with Mark's friends. And then over there, for instance, so this curiosity. So I think he was one of the first visiting the new archaeology museum in Cairo. That is really a wonder. John, you were there with him. Amazing. I mean, and I thought, well, my dream, I was in the old one that was quite messy. And now this one is an architectural jewel. I mean, tremendous. Not only that, he would always share and add a lot of history about the place and share it with the friends and share it not only WhatsApp, in any call. So amazing. And then for me, as also a manager of teams, for me was shocking the short calls. The calls were between 5 to 7 minutes. So the first call about the pitch competition, because it was the post-pandemic times. That was, okay, long ago, but very, very, I mean, there was some kind of pessimistic view. And then the students in the team came up with this pitch competition. So then one student said, okay, you have in your team Mark Mobius. What about if we ask him for funding? So the student and I sit on my desk and call him. well, Mark, we are thinking of we have just launched that, and we need funding to give a prize to the winner. Okay, I'll give you that. 2 minutes later, I think I should give you more, that much. 4 minutes later, tripled what initially had done. I thought, wow, in 4 minutes, amazing. The generosity, the interest to help entrepreneurs in emerging markets that have a much harder time than in the US or Europe. And then the second one is that, again, very recently, he had two obsessions. I think the price we are giving is too small. We have to increase it. And without asking, he himself thinking and actively saying, I'll give you more funding so that we can increase the award price. Amazing. And then even again with the book, the calls were 4 minutes, 6 minutes, and it was done, which was really amazing. And a lesson for me, my calls now are shorter with my team because very efficient, to the point. Let's do it. Done. Great. I learned a lot from that. We have now another question from the audience. Gustavo, was there ever a moment when Mark's view on Brazil or Latin America, that's a very good one, differed from the market consensus?
I think many times. I think I'll just say one. During a scandal here in Brazil, a car wash scandal involving oil company Petrobras. It was a domino effect in terms of the supply chain, and the banks were making massive write-offs. The market was very negative, impeachment of the president. So it was pennies on the dollar back then. And he said, bye, let's go for it. I think it was a very interesting moment that we felt comfortable with the companies. They were going to turn around, and we bought.
Excellent. So we are getting into the time, only 5 minutes left. Any other questions from the audience? So very interesting. So let me just maybe close one last thought. The first one for you, Andrew. So how do you think Mark's philosophy, Mark's values, Mark's lives connects with the mission of the College of Business?
Well, like I said, I think that Mark, and I loved hearing these stories, Gustavo and John. I really enjoyed listening to you, and I'm sure the audience is very much enjoying all of these different experiences that you're sharing. I think that, Mark Mobius, as I described myself as a scholar, watching him for decades before I had a chance to meet him, he was larger than life in the way he thought and the way he performed and served as an investor out there. And I think that for our students here at the College of Business, at Cornell University at large, and frankly, for all young people around the world, I think it's this inspirational image of him as someone that pioneered, that was thinking differently than others, that always remembered, though of course in a very carefully disciplined way, always remembered that it was about people first. To me, that is what I think people that encountered him or experienced him on a panel, in a pitch competition, in meeting with managers of a company that you were thinking about investing in, it's probably what people will remember about him.
And final thoughts, Gustavo?
Yeah, I think a lesson from Mark is to make most of life. Be determined, be it in work or your free time. Don't waste time. Be optimistic and curious always.
And John, again, for you, it's also an emotional moment because, again, the last 8 years of your life, of his life, and the last days, I mean, the first years of your career, interestingly enough, you interacted with him a lot. So, final thoughts.
Yes, I think we touched on, genuine curiosity and making the most of life. I think that something else that Mark was really always about was challenging new ideas, challenging old ideas, and reinventing and reinnovating yourself and the markets you're looking at, and not to get complacent with things, and always strive to push the boundaries. I think one of his favorite quotes was that the world belongs to optimists. So it's important to stay optimistic and stay pushing boundaries and pushing ourselves in not only our careers, but in our lives.
Well said, John. Well said. Hey, Lourdes, you need to answer that question too. We need to put you on the spot to answer it.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. For me, definitely this thing of doing things, getting things done, cut through the bureaucracy, cut through everything. Let's do it, and the easiness that he would say, okay, we can do that. That's it. So that was for me again the very short call, so efficient. The meetings, I have never seen most efficient meetings. Definitely. Super important. For me also, I was overwhelmed by the obituaries. The Economist, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, of course, Bloomberg, of course, Franklin Templeton. So it was amazing that not only was this, so many obituaries were because of his influence, but also because of his personal character and values. And also what I remember as well is that wherever I go, wherever I've been going in the last year, so they know that Dr. Mark Mobius was part of the center. So then they say, you know what? I worked with him. He will not remember me, but it was such a great experience. I learned so much. So when now one student here in the second year, when she arrived on the first year, the first thing she came to the office and told me that. So that was amazing, of the legendary person, not only because of his vision about emerging markets, but also about he as a person. So let me just close the keynote because we are almost on time. So thank you, Dean Andrew Caroli. Thank you, Gustavo Stenzel, and thank you, John Ninia. You were my student for 4 years, and for the next years we have been working together, and you were very instrumental in building this trust also with Dr. Mark Mobius and launching all these initiatives. We look forward to continuing to work with you and with the Mobius family to maintain his legacy. And he was not only a legendary investor, but for all of us here, a mentor, a builder of till the last minute to build the pitch competition, to make it better, to make it more impactful till the very last day. And also a friend and a believer in emerging markets. For the Cañizares Center for Emerging Markets, Mark's legacy is not only something we honor, it is something we are committed to continue to build. And now by working again with the family, with the foundation, and with John, I'm very, very grateful for that. Through the Cornell EMC² Mark Mobius Pitch Competition, his name will remain connected to the students, to Cornell, to the entrepreneurs, to ventures that see opportunity where others see only uncertainty. The Cornell EMC Mark Mobius Pitch Competition honors Dr. Mark Mobius' lifelong belief in emerging markets, and that emerging markets are places of opportunity, innovation, and human potential. His legacy will continue through every student entrepreneur who dares to build for these markets and for the future. Mark taught us that emerging markets are not the periphery in the global economy. They are places of talent, resilience, innovation, and future growth. We are grateful for his friendship, his generosity, and his confidence in Cornell, in our students. It was a privilege and now a responsibility for us to continue building on what he started. May his memory continue to inspire us, and may the competition that bears his name continue to support the next generation of emerging markets leaders. Thank you, the audience, for being with us, and thank you, Andrew, Gustavo, and John.
Bye-bye. Thank you.